Late night talks are here. Late night talks. Late night boxing talks. I'll let the list populate a little bit while I monologue. It's fucking crazy, man. Got sent a couple of screenshots from the usual suspects who love having my name in their mouth. They love it. My name must taste very good. How much effort goes into saying it? It's crazy, man. 9-10 months later, some people just can't get over it. You'd have thought that I shagged or something. Like, I'm not even going to say no names. They wish I would say their names. They wish. I was goody, Rafa, que lo que, Willie, que lo que, yo, Michael Giles in the building, Idel, que lo que. You know what I mean? They wish I would say their name, or they wish that I would give them the energy that they give me, because underneath it all, they love me. They must. 9-10 months later, you're still thinking about me? The fuck? You got nothing better to do? I got sent a couple of screenshots. I get sent screenshots on a regular basis by people who I don't mince words with, don't talk to, or even talk about for the most part, unless they're talking about me. And it's always the same people. Literally, it's always the same people. And I can't do nothing but laugh at it, because it's like, well, what am I supposed to do now? Get in an argument with you? I don't give a fuck what you think. So I'm not going to get into an argument with you. I am, however, going to make a personality profile, try to figure out what's wrong with you that all these months, after all these months and all this time, wow, Christopher, what it do? Your dad. Ow! Eddie Alejandre Concha, que lo que? Mr. D-Loke Doc in the building. Julius, do you know why these dudes always insinuate that Crawford has to cross the street for the Spence fight, even though Thurman and Spence were in the same stable, and we know what happened there? That was just an excuse for them to delay the fight. It was never actually about sides of the street, because there were several fighters on that side of the street that didn't fight each other. So sides of the street was never really the issue. Leo Santa Cruz and Gary Russell were on the same side of the street, but they didn't fight. Jermall Charlo and Jermel Charlo, not only were they on the same side of the street as Jarrett Hurd and Erislandy Lara, those fights never happened. Frankie Sanchez right now is on the same side of the street as Deontay Wilder, who has stated that he will make his ring return. He's not retiring. Now, you tell me if you think Frankie Sanchez is going to get a fight with Wilder. And they're on the same side of the street. So it's really not about sides of the street. Before, Errol Spence wanted Keith Thurman, couldn't get him. Same side of the street. Now, Keith Thurman wants Errol Spence, but Errol is not receptive, or at least he hasn't been. Who knows if he'll change his mind. But, they're on the same side of the street. And you can see that sides of the street was never really the real reason behind, not fighting Crawford. That was just an excuse. That was always an excuse. It was never about sides of the street. Julius, do you think Tszyu should fight someone else before Charlo? Charlo might be too big a step up too soon. I'll tell you this, Darren Hodges. At this point in the juncture, as high as I am on Tim, I don't think he's ready for Charlo. The saving grace is I never thought the fight would materialize. I don't think Tim Tszyu and Jermel Charlo are going to fight. What I anticipate is either Tim Tszyu ends up fighting Magomed Kurbanov or Liam Smith or Tony Harrison for the vacant WBO title. Tim Tszyu made it crystal clear that Jermel Charlo has approximately 4 months to make a decision, at which point the WBO will require action. And we already see what's kind of happening, that Jermal's going to go up to 68 and Jermel's going to go up to 60, at which point the titles will go vacant. So even though I don't think Tim is ready for Jermel right now, it doesn't really matter, because they're not going to fight right now. In all likelihood, which in a fight that I do like, and I talked about it in a video a couple of days ago, if you go to the WBO's ranked standings, you'll see Liam Smith is there, Tony Harrison is there. Magomed Kurbanov is there. So when the title goes vacant, if it happens that way, if that's what happens, if the title goes vacant, Tim Tszyu will likely have to fight one of them to be elevated the champion. If they don't elevate him straight away, because they could always do that. He's already WBO interim champion. So they could elevate him straight away, or they can have him fight one of those three guys, because those are the next three guys in the rank standings. It's Liam Smith, Tony Harrison, Magomed Kurbanov. So they'll go down their ranks and then see who can make a deal, who wants to fight for the title. Personally, it could be Liam Smith, because it's an opportunity for Liam. It's a title fight. Liam is experienced at 154 pounds. He has been a WBO champion there before. So I could see Smith versus Tszyu happening. I could also see Tszyu versus Harrison happening because, whether people are aware of it or not, Tim Tszyu inked the contract with the PBC. It's a multi-fight deal. So he's over there right now. He is right now a PBC fighter. Maybe not the same way as Jermell Charlo and Errol Spence Jr., but the article that I read the other day, a couple of days ago, it said that he inked a multi-fight deal with them, and at least his next fight or his next two fights will be in America. Shout out to Jason Thomas, the best boxing. Hey, I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate that. We just here talking boxing and staying out of trouble. Doc, what it do? What the fuck is Parker thinking? What bigger fight for him is? You know what the thing is? Look, and I said this. I asked this weeks ago when they said that he was going to fight Joe Joyce. I asked, what could Frank Warren have offered him for Joe Joyce that Eddie couldn't have offered him for Filip Hrgovic? I always kind of looked at the fight funny because I like the fight, but the threat level is about the same. Filip Hrgovic, Joe Joyce, very risky fights. Both Olympic amateur standouts that medaled when they came out of the Olympics. Both fights are risky fights, which is why I was like, look, I'm okay with either fight. If he bailed on Hrgovic, but he ends up fighting Joe Joyce, I'm okay with it because the threat level is about the same, whatever makes the fight. But if he ends up not fighting Joe and not fighting Philippe, okay, then it's a duck. And it kind of confirms what I thought, that like, wait a minute, what could Frank have offered you at Queensbury and BT that Eddie couldn't have offered you at Matchroom and DAZN for Filip Hrgovic? I know damn good and well that Joseph would have went into that fight as the A-side fighter because he's more well-known, because he's a former champion. He's only ever lost the top 10 or top 5 guys, Anthony Joshua, Dillian White. So he would have went into that Hrgovic fight as the A-side fighter. And, they walked away from that. They laughed at the money. And I'm like, okay, so Matchroom didn't offer you an amount of money that you liked for that fight. But Frank did. Frank offered you more money for Joe Joyce than you were offered for Filip Hrgovic. Am I understanding this? Shout out to George. George says, oh, yeah, man, Ray Liotta. I know. I watched so many of his movies, bro. Well, remember your name in Goodfellas. P.S. Little Charlo versus Triple G. If or when he moves up and Golovkin doesn't. If Golovkin doesn't. Yeah, but he's going to retire, bro. If you think about the 2 paydays that he just got, a payday with Ryota Murata, then another huge payday. But bear in mind, this is a guy who already got the first 2 paydays from the first 2 Canelo fights, both of which did 1 million pay-per-view buys. He's got those paydays. He has the money that he made when he first went to DAZN, $14 million for Steve Rolls, another $14 million for Sergey Derevyanchenko. Whatever they gave him, I'm sure it probably wasn't $14 million, but it was just something good for Kamil Zeremata, more than anybody else would make fighting Kamil Zeremata, right? You put all that in a pool, and then you tack on, he just got another bucket of millions from Ryota Murata, and he about to get another bucket of millions for Canelo. That dude is not going to stick around after that. If he do, he's a lunatic. He is a lunatic. Yeah, I think he's going to retire him too. I've always maintained that he's probably going to retire him. And if he walks away from the sport after that, well, who could blame him? He's 40 years old. He's made very good money. To date, he is still the only middleweight champion in the middleweight division. The other 2 guys, they couldn't get it together to fight each other. They were stuck waiting on other people instead of sorting it out amongst themselves. You know what I mean? And that's why, like, I don't blame Demetrius, because I believe Demetrius would have taken a Golovkin fight, or he would have taken a Charlo fight. Really, I blame Charlo, because Charlo, like, okay, and I tell this story all the time. They offered you to go to the zone. You didn't want to do that. Okay, fine. You don't want to go there. Why don't you just have them send you Demetrius? They offered to do that, and you didn't like that either. So you didn't want to fight him there. You didn't want to fight him here. You didn't want to get it done. And it was the only unification match available to you. Gennady was not available to you. So what are you going to do? Not fucking fight anyone because you can't get Gennady? You still have Demetrius. Showtime didn't make an offer for Demetrius the same way they made an offer for Munguia, but let the usual suspects tell it, and it's the zone that has the problem. It's Matchroom and Eddie. They're the bad guys. I was goody Virtuoso, was goody Jump Tube, good guy wins. Lobitos Boxing, que lo que? Will people question his legacy if he wins and wants to close with a bang? He might go on. I don't know. It's hard to imagine that a guy who had a, decent-sized amateur career, decent-sized professional career that, he's still boxing and he's 40, but he's still winning. He is still winning. And the only guy that has a recorded victory over him is Canelo Alvarez, right? In a situation like that where he loses the third fight and, maybe he gets stopped, it's hard to imagine, because he had a war with Canelo in the second fight, and he had a war with Sergey Derevianchenko, and another smaller war, with Daniel Jacobs before all of that. And he's about to go, that fight with Ryota Murata, that was a war. He got hit in that fight, This is a 40-year-old man. He got hit in that fight. It wasn't like he just went in, wham, bam, fight's over, 1 round. He got hit in that fight. And he's going to get hit in this one. And it's hard to imagine that after all of that, making all the money that he made, too. That's the other thing, because he made a lot of fucking money. It's hard to imagine that he sticks around after a Canelo fight. It's just like, nothing is impossible, but it's hard to imagine that he would keep fighting after that. Like, what would you be fighting for? Hey, JJJJ, you know what I'm saying? Not seen anything about Janibek being the Mando yet. No, he is the Mando. He is. It's out. The story's out. I just haven't touched on it yet, but it's out. Demetrius is not out of the woods. The WBO is putting him on the spot now. And if you know just as much as I do that Bob Arum has a way with the WBO. He has a way with them. And as soon as he squeezes them to order the fight, they're going to order the fight. And Demetrius either has to fight him or vacate. So, we ain't got to worry about that. Like, we don't have to worry about that at all. It's either Demetrius is going to defend that belt in order to keep it, or he's going to hand it over. The question is what happens after that, because you can make Janibek a champion, but he's going to find himself in a very similar situation to what Demetrius was in, to where people don't want to fight him, at middleweight. Obviously, Janibek doesn't want to fight Gennady. He said that himself. But what happens with the green belt and what happens with the WBC? Just what happens with that? What can he do to become a unified champion in the middleweight division when Gennady's up there fighting Canelo, and even if he wasn't, you didn't want to fight him anyway because you said you looked up to him. That's on his own social media. He said he doesn't want to fight Gennady because he looks up to him. And he's a unified champion. So 2 of the alphabet titles, he's got them. Charlo, he's over there at the PBC. You're not going to get a fight with him. So it's hard to imagine what the next couple of months or what the next 2 years are going to look like for Janibek, because even though Top Rank can get him fights, they don't control the middleweight division. They don't control all the alphabet titles that are there. We have to look at, the WBA title, the IBF title, and see who's in line to fight for those titles, because that might give us an idea of what the future holds at 160. We know that Gennady Golovkin's going to fight Canelo. We know there's a high probability that he retires after that. So if he does, who is in a position to fight for those belts at this time? You know what I mean? And yeah, man, that's the motherfucking shit. So yeah, I got motherfuckers hate watching me and shit. And I'm honestly surprised because some of these people are really fucking old, or at least they're as old as I am. And they love hate watching me. It's the funniest fucking it's flattering to me, honestly. I find it flattering that all you gotta do is say my name and certain people gonna pop up. Or just say my name on Twitter. I defy any one of y'all to go on Twitter right now, say Ring IQ is a little bitch, and I guarantee you I could tell you every single person that pops up. Because it's always the same couple of people. It's not a big group of people, to be honest. Because I'm an easy person to get along with. So it's not even like it's a lot of people. It's just the same people. It's always the same people. And I find it flattering, like, yo, man, I really made an impression, man. Motherfuckers are sitting around shaking their fists at the sky. Julius, I hate you and that cute. I would say names, but I don't want to give them that much credit. Like, you're not that important. Like, I'm laughing at you, but you're not that important to where I need to, get into a full-on tirade. Because they'd love that. When you talking about me, taking shit out of context. When you got to take shit out of context just to say something about me, you are trying too hard, man. Trying too hard. Yeah, man. So let me just post this for y'all, and we get an idea of just what's going on. Because while Yanni Bekalim Kanuli is an excellent fighter, and I think he's a handful for everybody, I envision that he may have problems, that he might have difficulties in the future. So let's go to, let me just pull this up for you guys and we could talk about it. Y'all give me a second. Okay, so right here what we have are the WBA's current rank standings. This is number 1 through number 10. And it seems that Chris Eubank Jr. is in a pole position to challenge for the WBA title with Jaime Munguia ranked right behind him. And behind Jaime is Sergio Martinez. If you can believe that. Sergio Martinez is in the top 5 of the WBA, right? So he's inching closer and closer to fighting for an alphabet title. Then, behind him, you got Michael Zarafa of Australia, Anatoly Muratov. I'm not familiar with him, but I'm going to have to give him a look. You see Yanni Beck, but Yanni Beck he's already, he might as well be WBO champion. Austin Williams from right here in the US of A. It's like, it looks like Chris is in a pole position to catch the WBA title. Should Gennady Golovkin vacate it after the Canelo fight? Should he vacate it? Chris is in a pole position to catch it, at least right now. And, maybe Gennady doesn't retire. Maybe Gennady says, hey, listen, I might have got beat by Canelo, but Chris is still a piece of shit. I could still beat him. Maybe he defends it. Maybe he goes to the UK, gets another payday. Can happen a lot of different ways. It's easy to sit behind a mic and talk down about people on social media. You're a good dude. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I don't know, man. Honest to God. Like, I think it's a sickness how much they want me to be the bad guy when I'm the good guy. And every time you talk about me, you just expose that you're the bad guy. Well, really, I'm the bad guy, though, because I do what I want. I have affected you. I've affected your brain. I touched your brain. Touched the titty nipple in your brain that you're still fucking talking about me like 9-10 months later. Like, Jesus Christ, get a fucking goldfish. I'm gonna open up the chat to the panel in a minute, man. I just had to let that out. Like, y'all motherfuckers, man. Y'all love me. Y'all love y'all some me. How the fuck is I'm telling you, bro, he's in the top 5. I shit you not. He's in the top 5. If something should happen to Chris, and Chris, I don't know, he loses ground, Sergio moves up. And Jaime with him. Yeah, exactly, Rafa. Haters are motivators, bro. The more they hate on me, the more I laugh about this shit. Like, yo, do you realize that I literally forgot some of y'all existed? And if it wasn't for people sending me screenshots of you talking about me, I would have forgot about you if it wasn't for that. You get like, you're sick. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm the kind of person, I could let shit go. I could make amends. But their hate of me, you would thought that I like really did something to them. Like I shot their dad or I killed their cat or I don't know, I rear-ended them or some shit. Like you would really think that I did. And if you ask them, yo, what did he do? Watch, like, what did I do, fam? What the fuck did I do? I'm giving you the energy you give me. The fuck? I ain't doing nothing. I'm innocent. You know what I mean? Shout out to Kaylee Rice and Greg Cohen. I just watched Sasha Jones's portions of it. Sasha Jones's interview with Kaylee Reese and Brian Cohen. Wonderful people. I gotta have them back on here. If I gotta get them back on here. I really like those two. It's always live when they around. You know why it's live? Because they live and I'm live. So when you get together, it's all live, fam. It be live, yo. You know what I'm saying? There go Karma. She waiting for Errol Spence to get knocked out. It's coming, Karma. Don't worry. It's coming. He'll get knocked out soon enough. Hey, Jay Flint was Gordy. Virtuoso in the building. Jay in the building. Could you imagine if it comes down to Jaime Munguia and a 40? No, he's not even 40. He's 50.
What's up? What's going on?
Country. Hey, Jay.
I got hate watchers.
Hey.
I got hate watchers laying low, watching me. I got hate watchers.
Yo.
Let's talk this shit about me.
What's up, guys?
I got hate watchers, man.
What up, Leo?
I heard. Hey, you know what?
Man?
Haters make
That's gonna be the new anthem, yo. I got hate watchers laying low, watching you. I got hate watchers.
Hey, Jules, it'll be hate on me. If you need someone to hate
on me when you're not strong,
we all need a Julius,
and I ain't do nothing wrong. That's gonna be my anthem. Hate on me because you're not strong. Talking shit about me, and I ain't do nothing wrong. Always hating on me. I ain't do shit.
Dude. It's perfect, man.
I ain't do shit. Like I got look, everybody chill. I got sent some screenshots, right? I got sent screenshots about, I'll say maybe 3 weeks in a row, and it's literally the same people. And I'm like, yo, dog, all of that arguing and all of that stuff was like 9 or 10 months ago, almost a year. Are you telling me that you have spent the better portion of 10 months hating on me? That's crazy, B. I need, man.
Hey,
I need
Jules,
to get a
we be on your panel a lot. They probably don't like us either.
Probably not. You know what I want y'all to do? I want y'all remember Fight Club when he gave everybody homework? This is going to be the homework. I want everybody on this panel to go on Twitter and say Ring IQ is a bitch.
Oh, fuck.
Okay. Got it, yeah.
And watch who pops
see how
up.
many people like your tweet. Yeah.
Everybody gonna be like, hey,
Mike,
Jay,
just
you
do
feel
it,
like
bro.
with you?
Just do it. I want whoever got a Twitter, I want y'all to go on Twitter, type Ring IQ is a fucking bitch, and see if it don't be the same people liking the shit. It's the same people all the time.
Oh shit! We have you legitimately asking us to do that, Jay?
I'm dead set. What's the worst that can happen? They're gonna talk shit about me. They're doing that
already. But have you ever asked them why they hate you though?
I know why.
No, I know you know why, but they can't explain why they hate you, because when you list the facts, they can't even come up here and argue.
Well, I know this much. One of them will lie. One of them will outright lie, and I know that much. One of them will outright lie, and that's the one that surprises me, because it's like, yo, all of that beef. Well, not even. It's not beef. Nobody's getting shot or stabbed. Not a punch was thrown. You know what I mean? It's not beef. It's people that are on the internet that are sexually frustrated and like to argue with people. That's what it really is, right? And they'll lie. Like, they will outright lie. Like, oh, he's plotting to do what? Block you for being a maniac? It's crazy. Yo, I'm telling you, I don't even want to get into it, man.
You know, I got to come back for that. It's like, don't make me pull Anthony Joshua on you, roll up on you, and put the fear of God in your ass. like on some real shit, though.
Bro, why Karma the first one that did it? She just did it, dog. Like, yo, you gonna see. Watch the same old fucking people pop up. So I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on today's press conference, which I have to admit, it really was thoroughly entertaining. I laughed. It was funny. Funny. I feel like this is the Rolly that we were waiting to see in the first press conference, but I don't know, maybe he just didn't feel good that day, but he was really being a showman today. I almost wanted to buy the fight. I don't know, like, I'm fighting the urge to buy the fight, because it's like, this is an awful waste of money, though, for one fight that I'm really not even interested in so much as a trash talk. But I'm going to start at the top.
Well, Julius,
what did you make of the press conference?
I was fairly entertained by that. I thought Rolly came out with the insults like really heavy and real quick. So I'm gonna give him a 10-8 round. I thought he exhibited some ring generalship with his dirty cuss words.
I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna go to Country. Did you catch the press conference? And did it make you? Were you at least considering buying the fight based on what you saw at the press conference?
Unfortunately, because I was working today, I did not see it. But you know what? I'm pulling for Rolly anyway.
All right. Now, Jay,
You're a faithful dude.
Jay, I know you saw it. What did you make of the press conference? And at minimum, did it make you at least consider buying the fight and buying the pay-per-view?
Yeah, I mean, just what I didn't see the whole thing. I'm gonna watch it later on tonight. I just saw just the good juicy bits that Showtime put up on social media, and but I pretty much got the gist of it. But I was just gonna watch the whole thing, and oh my God, Rolly is just. This is the first time he genuinely made me laugh. Like this, he's funny as fuck, man.
No, because he is that Rolly. If you watch the other interviews, that were Gervonta Davis and nobody's really there, just like if he's going in on Devin, for example. Yep. That's how he normally is. Like that's why I guess he has a little bit of a cult following, because
Jules, sorry to interrupt you, but that's up right now.
What is
your request? I just did it.
Yeah. Go ahead. Everybody go nuts. I want everybody in the chat, everybody in the panel. I want you to go on Twitter and type "Ring IQ is a bitch" and then show me who likes it.
I put Ring IQ as a fucking little bitch. I'm sorry.
That works.
Not, but Jules, to answer your question, just to finish it honestly did make me consider buying it, but I'm not going to. I'm fighting the urge, even though I want to pay for it, and Rolly pretty much just sold the fight. I'm gonna watch it regardless and do other means, but I mean, but paying for it, no. But like it's like now I got to scour interviews for Rolly just to make sure, like, is he funny like this?
Listen, he was funny. Like I wasn't. He was genuinely funny. Let me go to Leo. Leo, did you catch the press conference? What did you make of it? I don't think you have to buy the pay-per-view in Chile. No, I think it's available to you guys for free.
I didn't catch the press conference. I'm really happy for Rolly because at least he's hyping up the fight. He's gonna get some more money, I think. But either that, I don't think I really gonna watch the fight even if it's free for me, because I'm not interested. No, I'm not interested. Look, I don't think Rolly is gonna do well in that fight, and Gervonta is gonna have his way with Rolly. So for me, it's a foregone conclusion. That
So
Gervonta is
all
gonna
right,
win.
all right. You look at that as a foregone conclusion fight. Let me go to Michael. Michael, should we expect an upset? Are you considering buying the pay-per-view? And did you happen to catch today's press conference?
I did watch today's press conference, and that shit had me dying. This shit is funny. It's too idiot. You have to realize, like Rolly's stupid, but also is Gervonta. So it's two idiots arguing. Like
Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber.
Both of them can't even form like two sentences at the same time. Like, you know what I mean?
You know what? Gervonta's starting to get kind of like really mad and heated lately. So
listen, Country, some of the stuff Rolly said was so good that Gervonta didn't know what to say. He was like, "What?
He's like, what? No.
I'm like, yo, who are you, Stone Cold? Stop saying what all the time,
bro." He said,
"I could barely hear."
He said what like 4 times because he didn't know what to say back. Like he didn't know
exactly. Like even when he spoke, man, it was tough to get his words out. Like it was hard to hear because I think those lip fillers are preventing him from sounding clear. I don't know what the fuck.
You have them Kylie Jenner lips.
Well, he really do. He looked like he got like I see what Rolly was talking about, but I also said it yesterday, and I'm like, bro, you looking at his lips? You know what I'm just being real. Like I know, like he said it, so we all noticed it. At the same time, you synced it first. So what, you was just looking at his joints? Like why would you notice that? Let me go to JBN. JBN, did you see the press conference? And are you expecting like an upset, like something crazy to happen on Saturday?
Hey, what's up, man? How you been, IQ?
Chilling.
How's the panel? Everybody good?
Everybody
we doing all right.
Man, I didn't get to see the whole thing. Highlights. I was just really busy at work. I did see like at the end when Rolly goes up and he holds his belt up and freaking Gervonta's like, well, you got that up. That's the fake belt. That's the fake belt. It's like, bro, that's the same belt that you won.
But
Rolly's like, shut the fuck up. That's the same belt that you have. Shut the fuck up.
He didn't know what to say to that one, I bet.
But JBN, dímelo, is he lying though? It's literally the same. It's the same thing, bro.
Yo por eso cuando escuché, bro, cuando yo escuché que dijo eso, like, when he's like, that's the fake belt, I was like, bro, isn't that the same belt you won at 140? Like,
it is though. Like it literally is. Like interim, regular, it's all the same thing.
Yo, I've never seen a dumbass kid like Rolly like just make a fucking Tank Davis who's slightly fucking smarter than him. He look even dumber. Like what the fuck?
Yo, that's the wild part. That he stupefied a stupid guy. Let me go to Julio. Julio, did you?
Wilding, man, he was wilding.
Let me go to Julio. Julio, did you catch the press conference? Do you get the sense that maybe Rolly might retard punch him or out stupid him? Just what are you expecting on Saturday?
Yeah, that's hilarious. It really is like watching two people make macaroni art when they get on stage together. That's like their vibe.
Both dumbasses,
Yo, that was gold.
Nah, but as far as surprises go, I think like you might see Rolly wobble Tank. Or maybe Tank, it might not even be like the brawl people are expecting. Tank might just outbox him, and it'll be, you know, a boring, safe win for him. I think those are two very likely things to happen, and also Rolly getting points taken off him for being dirty. But I think that's about it.
Definitely that if Gervonta doesn't, and that's, you know, just all jokes aside, Rolly is a very dirty fighter. He uses elbows, he throws guys, he likes to wrestle with the guys in the clinch, and that's if he don't get knocked out early, I could definitely see him getting points deducted and or disqualified. I could see that.
Do you think he can muscle him?
Rolly, man.
Do you
think
he can muscle him, like keep pushing him to the ropes, getting him into the ropes, just landing awkward punches?
He's big.
I mean, look, this is why it's possible, and I don't want to give Rolly too much credit. It's just that Davis's 2 fights as a lightweight were fights where he didn't look his best, both of them. The Gamboa fight that went 12 rounds, he needed 12 rounds to knock him out, and the guy only had one good leg. Then Isaac Cruz went the distance with him. He hurt his own hand in that fight trying to knock out Isaac Cruz, and he couldn't get it done.
Now, that's another factor. What if he hurts his hand fighting Rolly?
That's what he's coming off of, country. He is coming off of an injury. So that's another thing that I'm thinking about. That Rolly's not small for lightweight. He's actually pretty big. So I don't – and the thing is that he's such a bad boxer, he probably won't be that hard to hit, I imagine.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
I mean,
if Rolly's smart, he'd go to Tank's body with his power shots, man.
Yeah,
Is it possible that Gervonta just isn't as big of a puncher as we think he is at 135? Like, he's not one punch clocking people like he is at 130.
Has he knocked out?
Knocked out somebody
that's the thing. That's the thing, and I've maintained that for a very long time. That Gervonta Davis's power at 130, it's not the same at 135. And you know what people like to use is the Mario Barrios fight at 140. That you can't say that because he went up to 140 and knocked out that kid. Yeah, but that kid hadn't beaten anybody though. You know,
who was he? Like really, like
he wasn't world like that kid wasn't that kid wasn't world class that he knocked out. So it's like, yeah, he knocked out Mario Barrios, and he is taller, but that's not even really like a. I mean, like, come on now. I would say
Mario Barrios isn't even tested. I don't mean a win against Cepeda, this other guy.
Nobody, Leo. Like, look, I'm gonna do the exercise. Let me do the exercise that I did on Twitter yesterday. Does Mario Barrios beat Regis Prograis?
No.
Hell no.
Come on.
Does Mario Barrios beat Jose Zapata?
No.
Does Mario Barrios beat Jose Ramirez?
Next.
Does Mario Barrios beat Subriel Matias?
He's dead.
He does, bro.
Does he even beat a Montana Love?
I don't think so, to be honest with you. I think Montana wins on points.
What I mean is this guy, Barrios, is not even tested. We cannot say he went there with any of those guys and at least had a competitive fight because we haven't seen it.
And that's
my point.
And that's why I say that knocking him out is not really a testament to Gervonta Davis's power as a super lightweight because you fought someone that didn't do anything there. So to Julio's point,
not even lose to someone elite.
Well, technically, he got a gift against that Russian guy, so I guess that's what he did. To Julio's point, I do agree that, I don't think his power at 135, so far, it hasn't proven to be the same as it was at 130. It hasn't. He's not doing to those guys at 35 what he did to Leo at 30, right? He's not.
Nope. Yo, and can I say this about the pay-per-view? Like, nobody in the panel or in the chat should be buying that pay-per-view because you can't keep letting PBC get away with charging people $80 for shitty cards and then like you're paying for one fucking fight.
Oh my man, the pay-per-view is gonna fail. Like nobody.
Dude, you're gonna have to walk a mile through fucking shit just to get to the main event. It's a no-go for me.
I might, you know, if I'm not doing anything, and I find a happy stream to surf, if I just happen to even still be awake because I might go to sleep.
The VPN and the anti-malware.
Bro, it's so easy. You literally search a boxing live stream is the first link on Google. Literally.
Yeah, like I know that, like I already know where I could go to watch it. It's just that I'm not exaggerating that. No, I'm really not interested. They almost got me interested with today's press conference. They almost got me interested, but then I'm like, yo. Come on, B. I'm gonna sit through Lara versus Spike O'Sullivan is the co-main event.
Oh,
Lara
that's horrible.
Spike O'Sullivan.
Like this fight could be over in two rounds.
How can they pass that off as a co-main event, man? I mean, come on.
There's no quality control, bro. They had
none.
They had what do you call it? What was it? Charles Martin versus
Luis Ortiz.
$80, bro. Like, fuck out of here.
Bro, listen, think about this. We're about to get Bam Rodriguez versus Sorung Visai.
That's going to be a good one.
$20.
Undercard of that is McCaskill, Ibarra. The undercard, we got MJ.
That whole card is better than this whole pay-per-view main event and all. And it's like I don't know, because I feel like this fight probably could do better business than Isaac Cruz, than that pay-per-view, because that was a late replacement that nobody knew, right?
Hey, Jules, Karma says she doesn't want to buy it and fall asleep.
Yo, don't buy it, Karma. Don't buy
I
it.
feel
Just
you,
don't buy
I feel
it.
you,
Just
Karma.
don't buy
I feel
it.
you.
That was 140 max. I'm saying.
The way I look at it, I don't know. Maybe it does 225. Could it do that with with everything we've seen, the press conference and the shit talking, and could it do 225?
Maybe.
I don't
I
think
mean,
so.
even if it did do that, it's not much.
I think
Still ain't
boxing
much,
purists will pass on it, but I think more casual fans might actually fork out the money.
Casual fans, bro, they have the most to say. It's unbelievable.
It is, though. It really
Mhm.
is. And
What
just
they're talking about, bro.
just beyond this fight, in all likelihood, what we're going to get is a Cruz rematch, because I've said it for weeks and weeks and weeks that regardless of what they're putting in a boxing scene, a bad left hook, he's not going to leave Al Heyman, Even if he leaves Mayweather Promotions, he's not going to leave Al Heyman. He's not going to leave Showtime. So if he doesn't leave Showtime, nothing really changes. You know what I mean?
They should
It's,
run it
it's
back,
like, I
though.
mean,
I think
literally,
it would
like,
be
fellas,
interesting.
like, y'all know what it is, though, fellas. It's literally like a Stockholm syndrome thing going on over there. I think that's what's going on with Tank Al, and
Yeah, I mean,
But
I mean,
Julius, I don't
base.
see it. I
Let
don't
me
see
let me say this. Everybody, chill. Let me say this. See, the problem with Javante is, he's putting up some kind of numbers and he's selling some kind of tickets with absolute nobodies. So if you tack on a Devin Haney or a Teofimo Lopez or a Ryan Garcia, yes, he might start to really put up star numbers. But until that happens, he's not a star. You don't even want to tell people what the Isaac Cruz fight did, but you want to wag your finger in Canelo and Eddie Hearn's face. It's fucking ridiculous.
Is that Barboza fight gonna be made yet, or with Lopez?
No, Barboza. I just saw that they made a fight for Barboza, and it's not Teofimo. So that tells me that in August he's not fighting Barboza.
damn, who's going to be then?
I don't
Julius,
know.
can
Zepeda.
you see the plan?
Nah,
for
Zepeda's
Devontae?
fighting. Zepeda's fighting. Taylor. Go ahead, Leo.
Can you see the plan for Gervonta? What's the move? The final move? Because with the other PBC guys, I get it. Okay, you have Germán Charlo, you have David Benavides, you have Kelo Plant. They got the Canelo money.
Mm-hmm.
They lured Canelo to PBC to make a pay-per-view fight. He did good numbers, and Kelo Plant got paid. But Gervonta Davis cannot lure anyone to the PBC that's gonna give them the PBC those kind of numbers. What's the plan?
Yeah.
This is what the plan is. Or at least this is what I think the plan is. Devin Haney versus George Kambosos is a 2-fight engagement, meaning for the next 2 fights, they know they can't do anything with that guy. They'll use name association tactics. You'll hear them say, like, didn't you see that when Shakur was about to fight Oscar, before and after, Davis said some shit about him. And yeah, Shakur said some shit about him, but that's the wave they on. Whatever else is going on, they going to say something, but they know they're not going to go for it. Now, maybe, I don't know, maybe after Devin is done with George, if that ends up being 2 fights, maybe then they try to fight him. But I'll tell you right now that in the next 6, 7, 8 months, in all likelihood, what we see is an Isaac Cruz rematch. In all likelihood.
Yeah. I believe that's what's going to happen. I think you nailed it right there, IQ.
Yeah,
I mean, because let's face it. Let's face it.
But not PBC.
If Devin Haney brings home the belts, right? You think that Gervonta Tank Davis is going to ace him?
He'll try.
I don't think
He
he will.
can't. He literally cannot.
No, it's not that he can. It's that he'll try, and that will kill the fight. That the fight. In other words, there is no fight. No guy. Look, if Devin wins that fight, regardless of what we think happens, but let's just imagine a scenario where Devin won the fight. He's not going to come back to America to take fucking marching orders from fucking Gervonta Davis. Like, you bugging. Like, bro, you're not going to pay me peanuts. I got over $1 million for Linares. I got over $1 million for Jojo Diaz. I'm not going to take less than 3 or 4 to fight you. And if you ain't got it, I don't need you. I'm undisputed.
Devin might just move up. Might just move up instead of fighting Tank if that's the case.
That's true too. That's definitely a possibility because he's big for lightweight. Devin is. He's big for lightweight, and he's young, so you know that he's growing. So he might have to move up.
And even if he doesn't have the belts, his name will have grown, his marquee will have grown, so he'll have good reputation once he moves up. Like, he'll be able to A-side a couple guys up there.
Look, Top Rank might decide to give him a lucrative contract that maybe he likes, but I want to shout out to Alexis Rimbero. He has a different prediction, and you know what I like about Alexis is you get a straight answer. He'll tell you what he believes. He doesn't believe Devin's going to win that fight. He believes he's going to lose. And if Devin loses, you have to imagine, okay, then what becomes of George? Well, George will have fought in a fight that brought in 50,000 spectators in Australia. You can't fuck with him. You can't A-side him. He will have a country behind him. You don't have everybody behind you over here, so you can't A-side him. Like, you can't. How? It would take a lot of money. If George wins that fight with Devin, he's the biggest draw in the lightweight division, not Gervonta Davis.
Oh yeah, his name will get bigger in America too. I feel he beats Devin Haney decisively. No controversies or nothing. Even in America, his name will grow as well.
Let me shout out to Don Ricardo. Julius, please tell my girl to stop being mad at me. I want to have beer in peace. You guys stop being mad at Don Ricardo. Él no hizo nada. Él no hizo nada.
Why are you so angry?
No hizo nada.
Déjalo en paz.
Ese hombre en paz, él quiere su cerveza, él quiere su michelada, su 2X, su Corona, whatever you
Bro, take it easy.
Hey, I'm a Corona. No, personally, I'm not gonna lie. When I go to the store, I'm a Corona guy. But I have had Dos Equis, it's good. I have had micheladas también. It's okay. But by brand and by habit, I am a Corona guy. Whenever I have a steak, I have my Corona. It's right there. You know what I mean?
How you like your steaks? Well done.
Medium rare. Yeah. I didn't always used to get them. When I was young, I did used to get them well done. But honest to God, the texture and the flavor is better when it's medium rare. It is. It's not as tough.
Hey, Jules, add some sour cream and horseradish to that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man.
But when I was young, when I was young, I was childish. Like, I don't want no blood on my steak. I don't want no bro. That shit tastes mad better when it's medium rare. I'm just being honest. It does taste a lot better. It makes a difference.
You know if I want to see at 140 when they're both healthy, Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez. I wonder how that goes.
Well, think about it. Well, let me say this. Everybody mute your mics because I'm hearing a lot of background noise. If Devin wins, Top Rank can make that happen, bro. If Devin wins, remember what we just said? Devin may not stay. If Devin wins the fight, he may not stay at 135 pounds because he's been there long enough already to where his body's growing. If he goes up there to 140, who's going to go up? Who's going to be there? Teofimo. That's another super fight that Top Rank can make because for the most part, Top Rank has the run of the place at 135 and 140, the same way that PBC has the run of the place at 147 and 154. So they can make that if Devin wins.
But he has to win.
He has to win.
Twice.
Now, I want to go around the board because I haven't spoken to JBN in a while or Julio, and I want to ask Michael also because I already know what everybody else is going to say. Let me start with Julio. Julio, do you think Devin is going to win in Australia?
I think that the odds are stacked against him as it is, but I also do rate Kambosos a lot better than most people. I don't think that he beat Teofimo like a lot of people say. I think that fight was still competitive. If you rewatch it, I think Teofimo did relatively well as well. But I do think Devin will probably lose a close split decision.
All right, everybody, stop. We got the main motherfucking man, the motherfucking Korean Cassell. We got Steve motherfucking Kim in the building.
What up, Steve?
Hey, guys, can you hear me?
Kim.
Hey.
What's up, Steve?
All right, everybody got to calm down. I got some questions for Steve. I'm going to ask Steve the same question I just asked Julio. We know that Devin's set to go down to Australia in many ways. The deck is stacked against him. Do you like his chances, Steve?
I actually think this is closer to a 50-50 fight. I actually listened to our boy Azabachi yesterday. Who he has one of the funniest nicknames for Haney. He calls him Devin Molinagi.
That's funny.
Almost as good as his Jeep Davis.
Jeep is perfect. Jeep is perfect.
But okay, so here's the issue that I have with Devin. Is Devin the more talented boxer? Yes. Is he the favorite? Yes. But I was at both of his fights last year, and I really like Devin. But he's the one guy that beat Linares that never floored him and didn't stop him. That to me is alarming, and he got hurt late. Joseph Diaz, good little fighter, but really more of a natural 26, 30-pounder. He actually buzzed him late. If you look at one thing about Kambosos, he's a very tenacious fighter with a lot of activity, and we have to be realistic about the business and the geography of this fight. Most likely, it's probably already 2-0 George Kambosos up on the cards.
Steve, I have George up 3 rounds on my card right now.
Right. Yeah. So that's a reality that we have to face. And look, I don't think that the Pacquiao Horn fight was the greatest robbery I've ever seen. I actually thought that fight was kind of close. I thought Manny looked really bad that night with his legs. But let's face it, if that fight was on American soil, Manny Pacquiao walks out of there with the victory.
That's true.
The one thing that Kambosos has to do in the first half of the fight, even if he falls behind early, he has to make Devin Haney work 3 minutes of every round and set a quick tempo. So even if you're going to lose rounds, make this guy work.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it, George just has to be busier with the activity, and that will be enough with the Australian, the judges in general, wherever they're from, because he has the crowd behind him. He has home field advantage. We all know how it works. We've seen it a million times, and George doesn't have to knock out Devin to win the fight. He just needs to be busier, and that'll be enough. It was enough for Jeff Horn. It was enough for him, just that he was in the fight and he was busy. So that being said, gun to your head, Steve. Who's going to win that fight?
I'm going to stick with Devin. I think he builds enough of an early lead. But I wouldn't bet the farm on it. Let's just put it that way. But the point that you make, Julius, is very key. It's what I call the boxing exchange rate. And we saw this with Canelo Bivol, that Bivol had to win 10 rounds to get 7.
Yep.
In this particular instance, George Kambosos, all he has to do is win 4 or 5 to get 6 or 7. With a draw, he retains the title.
Now, this is another angle, Steve. Who do you think, which outcome benefits Top Rank the most, in your opinion?
Well, keep this in mind. George Kambosos is actually a Lou DiBella fighter. Even though this particular fight is on an ESPN platform, it'll be on the linear channel, and there's a rematch clause. Look, there's no doubt about it that there's a shifting of the business philosophy with Top Rank. For years, they were basically top Mexican. Right? All the way from Oscar De La Hoya to Eric Morales. They based their business on the West Coast with a lot of Mexican and Latin fighters, Miguel Cotto. If you actually look, and I think we've talked about this in private, and I've talked about this with Azabachi, the last 2 years, Top Rank, they're going back to the brothers. If you actually look at their young stable, which I think is loaded, I actually wrote about it in my column, K9's Corner. I don't recall a young Top Rank prospect stable as good and deep as this, and most of them are Black Americans. So it's obvious to me that they're trying to shift their business, saying, hey, if there's not a Pacquiao that's going to come around, if there's not a next Miguel Cotto or De La Hoya, we just better start promoting anybody that's good. And you have Abdullah Mason, Xander Zayas, who's Puerto Rican, but the other kids like Jared Anderson, he's a young black man.
Bruce Carrington, Keyshawn Davis, Keyshawn's brother.
Tiger Johnson, who's excellent. And so I actually, when people say, well, Top Rank doesn't want the black guy to win, when it's their black guy, trust me, they want him to win.
Well, that's what's crazy. I mean, really, I saw that. Obviously, we've heard those arguments made over the years, and I'm just like, it's a little it's ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. It is. You know what I mean? Julius,
you know what's funny about the perception of Bob Arum not promoting black fighters. First of all, he got into the business through Jim Brown, who brought him into the Muhammad Ali business. Okay, so the first fight he actually ever attended, he was really not a boxing fan. As a young man growing up in Brooklyn, it was Ali Shavallo when Ali was going through all those situations where he couldn't get banned. And then for years, throughout the 70s and mid-80s, when his operations were in New York City, there used to be a guy by the name of Flash Gordon, had a boxing newsletter. And his derisive nickname for Aram's company was Top Plantation with Master Bob. Because basically, So when people say, well, Bob doesn't really like black fighters, I say, you people have no idea what you're talking about.
No, I mean, honestly, and I see where it comes from. I think it's just a byproduct of the digital era that as soon as someone says something, other people gravitate towards it without doing the research or without knowing, because obviously most of the people on the panel, we've been watching boxing for many, many years, and we know what's being said makes no sense. And it's not true. Like, I'm not going to tell you that Bob's not an asshole. Bob is an asshole. But I like him, but he's an asshole. And you have to be an asshole in the sport of boxing. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere.
No. In this business, hell yeah.
Yeah, this is where Bob is still Bob, and he frustrates me. I can understand 2 months ago him saying, look, nobody knows who Dmitry Bivol is. We're not going to fight him with Betterbiev. Well, okay. All right, Bob. May 7th happened. I'm not saying that my fourth cousin Dmitry Bivol is a superstar, but he's now a guy. And for you to say, well, Bivol, he needs to fight Zurdo. Okay, all right. Well, Bob, let's say he blanks Zurdo, and then he goes out to England and wrecks Boatsy. And Betterbiev still has some. Look, I saw the discussion. I listened to it that you guys had. Very entertaining. Helped me through my traffic through LA freeways. Betterbiev Smith is a great fight. I'm actually flying out there. And so New York better not start this vaccine crap again, okay? Because I'm going out there. But that fight is at the Hulu Theater at MSG. It's not in the big room.
Why?
What are we protecting here?
Well, let's be honest, Steve. This is the thing. Bob knows what we know. Artur Beterbiev stands a high probability of winning that fight. But Artur is approaching 38 years old. This is not a guy that has a lot of time left. So that's one. Two, for the time being, Dmitry is not only the A-side fighter. He would be. He beat Canelo Alvarez. You can win 3, 4, 5, 7 belts from Joe and people in the audience. Dmitry is still the A-side fighter. He beat Canelo. So while he's with Matchroom, I don't think Bob wants to deal with him. I really think what Bob is hoping is that Zurdo beats him.
Yes, there's no doubt about that. And look, the one thing that scares people in this situation about Bivol and his management led by Vadim Kornilov, and I know Vadim for years, I think very highly of him. And he told me this prior to the Canelo fight. We're not going to price ourselves out. We're going to play to win the game. I really thought Bivol had a great shot, Julius, at beating Canelo, not just because of his talent or style. I thought they were the first fighter since the second Golovkin fight that was not absolutely in awe of Canelo.
You highlighted it. I want to say this for those that are not already following Steve Kim on Twitter, follow him, because he was the only guy I saw saying, I saw your comments about how he was training, that he wasn't overtraining. He wasn't leaving it all in the gym, and how he was very aloof ahead of the fight, that you would have thought he's having another Joe Smith fight, because he's just blasé about the thing. Like, no, I'm here to do a job. And I, like you, maintained that this is a guy, he's not fighting for a check. That's not what I got from him. I saw a guy who truly believed he can win, and we see what happened.
Yes, and I'm sick of also this, though, because I'm not one of those fanagers. If Dmitry Bivol doesn't get Canelo, certain people make it sound like it's the end of the world. Wait a minute. As I've pointed out, a fight with Zurdo on the West Coast is a big attraction. It's much bigger than it was 7 months ago when they were talking about that fight. You have a 44-0 Mexican who's good-looking against Dmitry Bivol. Then if you fight Boatsy in England, that will sell out the O2 Arena. He's going to make a good living. As I like to say, there's no reason to start a GoFundMe campaign for Bivol.
Let me say this, and this is going to be a hot take, but they'll realize it afterwards. Bivol versus Zurdo on the West Coast is bigger than Smith versus Beterbiev on the East.
Oh, You know what? At the end of the day, they will have it at more than a 4,500 seat arena. That's
Easily.
not. You could have that at the StubHub Soccer Stadium because they've actually done that. Steve Forbes fought Oscar De La Hoya there before his ill-fated attempt at trying to put Top Rank out of business by fighting Manny Pacquiao. The LAFC Soccer Stadium is a very nice venue. They've talked about that. Guys, I got to ask the panel one question. I've been debating this with. Yeah.
Hey, one quick question. Your Twitter is Steve Kim 323, right?
Orale. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm clicking on it now, man. I'm gonna follow you.
Oh, thank you. Now, so I got to ask the panel this because we all have opinions, but people have been debating this in boxing circles, and I want everyone to answer. Is Rolly Romero the worst fighter to ever be a part of a main event on a pay-per-view? Because when I look at him shadow box, it's like I said on the 3 knockdown rule, he looks like a guy on Quaaludes trying to do popping and locking. It's
awful. Steve,
Wow.
I said myself, he looks like he's getting his ass whooped by a ghost.
Yeah.
Like that.
Hey, Steve, did you see the episode where we were all capping on him and we all lost it and we're busting up laughing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I did. And, it's interesting. Look, I love Paulie Malignaggi, but he actually asked a question. And Paulie, I love Paulie. He actually says, hey, if Tank beats Rolly, is he in the pound for pound? Think about this. What other fighter could beat Rolly Romero and you're arguing that is in the – I had to at least retweet Paulie and just say, nah.
I mean, look, I honestly feel that this is how far the American boxing scene, how low the bar is, to where we're pretending that somebody's mic, mute your mics except for Steve, everybody, because somebody got background noise. I feel like this is how low the bar is right now because this is not a pay-per-view fight, and we all know that. We get better fights than this on regular ESPN. We get better fights than this on DAZN, any other platform. This is not a pay-per-view fight. It's not a big fight, and it's like nobody wants to say it, but yeah, it's not a big fight. And Tank isn't that big a guy to where this is a big fight. No, it isn't. It's ridiculous.
Guys, let's just point this out, and I put this in my latest column, caninescornersnack.com, and I laid it out. Right now, if you go by Ring Magazine, Tank Davis is rated 4th at 135. I make an argument he's probably a little low. I put him a little higher, but Romero's not in the top 10. Now, if you're going a pound-for-pound thing, and I know his resume is really weak, you could make an argument that Tank is probably among the top 15 fighters in the world. 15 to 20, right? Rolly Romero may not be top 100.
I mean, seriously, it's insane, though. Like, look. We all know he got a gift against the Dominican kid. I forget his name.
Jackson Marinez.
Yeah. Jackson Marinez. And then I feel like, Jackson goes over the Top Rank after that. And what does Richard Comey do? He splatters the guy. Wrecks him easily. He wanted to knock him out. He knocked him out. And I felt like right then and there, look, this is the difference between what you get from Top Rank and what you get from PBC. I'm going to make it about the brand because that proves the point that Rolly can survive on a PBC. He can thrive. He can be a part of pay-per-view events. You send that same fucking guy to Top Rank, he don't make it out the first round, bro.
No, the other thing that's really interesting, and Coach Malachi Williams, I love Coach Mal. He had one of the funniest riffs. I mean, you want to talk about flip-flopping like a pancake. Tank Davis at the beginning of the week is telling everybody, set me free, why don't you, babe? Right? Mm-hmm. Then today, well, I might stick around. Hey, so my question is this, Julius, and to the whole panel. Did they do a Suge Knight on him? Did they put his feet over the balcony and basically said, you're re-signing with us or you're going to hit the pavement?
Look, I've maintained, Steve, if you've seen some of the episodes that I've done on the channel or you've seen what I said about it on Twitter, I never expected anything dramatic to happen. The most that I expected is if he's going to leave Mayweather Promotions, that doesn't mean he's leaving Al Heyman, and that doesn't mean he's leaving the Showtime platform. And really, it's the platform that isolates him because they're pulling from that pool of guys. Now, is he going to go to Top Rank so he has to work for his money? No. Is it likely that he's going to go to DAZN and be with Eddie? No. So it's like nothing dramatic was ever going to happen. And I'll go as far as saying that it's possible that everything we've seen the last 4 to 5 weeks about Gervonta Davis leaving, marketing strategy, PR stunt.
It was fake.
It all just shows itself up the week of the fight. The week of the fight. Oh, well, we're cool, man. I might not even leave. I love my team.
They may have pulled the shit night on his ass. I wouldn't deny it, but
but think about it. 2 days out from the fight, everything's fine. I take it all back.
No. I never said I would leave. I never said that.
I mean, it all seemed like yesterday that he was saying that, on the podcast or the Last Stand podcast that, I want the training wheels off, and then, in the press conference, he wants them back on. Like, what the fuck?
Maybe they give him an extra Pop-Tart before the fight, or they buy him like a new chain or a new something. But regardless of whatever, he doesn't strike me as the kind of fighter that has the mental faculties to break away and become that franchise, become that business, like a Floyd, like a Miguel Cotto, like a Oscar De La Hoya, and to some degree, like Manny Pacquiao. When he wanted to get away from Top Rank, he did. He had that Lucas Mathise fight, and then he went over to the PBC, got some money from them. He did that. Davis doesn't strike me as the guy that's going to do that. So to me, that they got strings on that kid. Maybe they did hang. Maybe they did hang him over the balcony. Maybe they did.
He's happy fighting bums, making the money, because he's really not making like bad money for who he's fighting. So he's just happy fighting the bums for like $1 million, $2 million per fight.
Yeah, I mean,
Julius, I want to say something. You talk about Rolly Romero's cult following.
Mm-hmm.
For me, when that started, and that is the product of this era, the social media era, the videos going viral, is when Rolly Romero sparred Ryan Garcia, because he was fucking him up. And everyone thought, Ryan Garcia was exposed, but this guy, Rolly Romero, might be something.
Come on.
Yeah.
Wait, you're saying that's what people thought?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not telling you that people blow that over proportions. I'm telling you that PBC, like, for me, the lame-ass promotional company that is, thought, we are going to have this guy up, and maybe can do something about it with him.
I mean, to Leo's point, I've been watching boxing since Chavez versus Camacho, right? You never heard as much sparring story. Like, you didn't hear sparring stories back. Like, I didn't when I was a child and a teenager and so on. You didn't hear about a lot of the sparring stories. When a sparring story would come out, like the stories about Aaron Pryor and Sugar Ray Leonard, that, Aaron used to, or at least according to Aaron, because that came from Aaron. Now it's like you're building whole careers off of sparring stories. Like Errol Spence, one of the main things in his career, he gave Floyd a black eye in sparring. And Daniel Dubois, he knocked down Anthony Joshua in sparring. Rolly Romero, he roughed up Ryan Garcia in sparring. And I feel that's how low the bar is now, to where you got guys making their careers not about what they did under the hot lights, but what happened in sparring.
Yeah, can I go back to that sparring session? I actually watched that a couple of years ago. That was more Greco-Roman than boxing. Honestly, that shit was bad.
That's Rolly's forte, though, man. He's a judo guy.
I mean, with Steve, it's funny you mentioned that, because I saw another sparring session with Rolly. I don't know who he was fighting, but he tried that rough shit with him, and he wasn't having it. Like he slammed Rolly. He got like they had to break it up, all that kind of shit. So
it was Teofimo.
And the thing is, Rolly is 14-0, and it's not like it's a Vasil Lomachenko 14-fight career where he's fighting one world champion after another. I know
exactly.
I remember when Bivol going into the fight with Canelo, people kept saying, "Well, he only has 19 fights." That's factually true, but he also had about 6 or 7 title defenses. I mean, so context matters, not to some people.
Well, no, I mean, look, the Bivol thing was so asinine that I had to refrain from arguing it, because I'm like, you realize that before Pascal went on that run where he beat Marcus Brown and he beat Badu Jack, do you know who beat him? Dimitri Bivol, all right? He beat him, Joe Smith Jr.
Joe Smith.
before he went on his run where he battered Jesse Hart and he battered Eleider Alvarez and he became a WBO champion. You know who beat him? Dimitri Bivol. Yeah, but they don't want to give the man his flowers.
Right, and you know what? Bivol was hurt in terms of the perception. His last few fights, let's face it, I actually dubbed him Dimitri boring last year because even me as a fan, I was like, okay, Dimitri, you got to get into the fifth gear here. But when he first came to America, when I think he beat Samuel Clarkson on Showbox, and he beat Ray Agnew on the Ward Kovalev undercard, and he was just scoring some ripping knockouts like a Trent Broadhurst. So he created this perception that he was like this Golovkin type when he really isn't. That's not really what he is. But Tim Bradley, give him credit. Tim Bradley told me and Mario 4 or 5 months ago, he said, guys, Betterbiev is not the best light heavyweight. It's Bivol.
Listen, Steve, me and Tim actually popped up here on the channel. He periodically pops up.
I remember that. Yeah.
And we came to that conclusion that, listen, Bivol's the guy. Bivol, not Artur. Artur is eye-catching, and he's exciting, and he's a knockout artist, and that's great. But he's not the guy. Bivol is the guy. And by the time they do fight, if they do fight, you're talking about 38-year-old legs on Artur Betterbiev to keep up with this guy? Well, I got Bivol.
Yeah, you know, Julius, you bring up a good point. What if Arum actually ages out his own fighter?
He might. Or maybe what his strategy is to wait until Dimitri is out of contract and then make him an offer that he can't refuse. The problem is that the wheels are already in motion for the rematch with Canelo, according to Eddie Hearn. He said that they're looking at Cinco de Mayo next year for the second fight with Bivol. So that means we don't get Artur anywhere between now and next May. We don't see that. By the time we do see it, if we do see it, the man's going to be, what, 38, 39 years old?
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah.
Hey, Steve, I got a question for you real quick. Mm-hmm. What's your opinion on Joel Casamayor training Rolly, man?
That's like that's like a great artist trying to teach a guy who can't finger paint how to make fine art.
Now, Steve, I got a question for you. It's a fight that, we're still waiting for it. It's Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk. Do you get the sense that maybe AJ might pull it together enough to where he gets the belts back, or are we looking at the exact situation, but worse than the first?
I don't know what changes, guys. And I've never been a guy that's been hard on AJ. I think he's been great for the sport, really good for the business. But if you look at the boxing IQ and the confidence, I have a theory, and I've said this about Anthony Joshua going back to his first fight when he met Dillian White when he first got hurt. See, everyone points to the fight with Klitschko where he got buzzed and he was never quite the same. I actually think it's the Dillian White fight. Before he scored the knockdown, he got buzzed, and I have a term for that. It's called being Rosarioed. Hector Camacho was the bravest, most courageous, most exciting fighter till one night, summer of 1986. He got hit hard by Edwin Rosario. And Hector Camacho flat out said, being macho ain't that fun. And he became an absolute stinker. And I
remember that fight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And he barely held on to a split decision. It was at the Garden. It happens to certain fighters. The first time they get hurt, guys, they can go two different directions. They either get better from it, tougher from it, or they just shrink. Joshua, in my view, psychologically, will never be completely fixed. Well, Usyk is one of these natural-born fighters.
Yep.
That will have look at how many times this guy has gone into other guys' backyards and beaten tough fighters.
And decisively, I can't stress this enough. Do you know how hard it is to win all those belts on the road in the other guy's country on points? He's not winning, because he didn't beat Gassiev by knockout. He beat him on points, but he beat him so decisively you couldn't rob him in Russia.
Right, and I don't know what changes. And then, Anthony Joshua went on this carousel. He's trying out every trainer for about 15 minutes. And then he ends back with his assistant. So I don't really know. The problem that Joshua has is because he does not trust his own chin or punch resistance, he can't actually fight like a big guy and enforce his size the way you think he would against a smaller Usyk, who I believe is just way too quick off the trigger inside the pocket against him and will always beat him to the punch.
So he said that for the first time in his career, and I don't even know if I don't know how true this is. I just know that he said it. He said that for the first time in his career, they're going to use a game plan, which implies that what you've been winging it all this time. No wonder you got beat by what you. So wait, and this is why I don't believe it. There had to be a game plan for the second Ruiz fight. That was a game plan. It had to be. You know what I mean? Unless you just winged all of that, which I find very hard to believe. But what could the game plan, if there is one, what could the game plan be for a Usyk rematch?
Well, that's a great question. But look, there's two ways to enforce size advantage. Either from the outside by using your length with a good hard jab and controlling distance, or bullying the guy up close. Could I see a scenario where Joshua just says, you know what, I'm going to go on the back foot and I'm going to let this guy control the center of the ring and time him with straight rights? I guess, but is Anthony Joshua really a natural-born counterpuncher? It's one thing to outbox a rotund Andy Ruiz who trained 20 minutes.
Exactly.
You are now facing a guy in Usyk who's one of the most adaptable, high boxing IQ fighters we have seen over the past 20 years. I'm not going to lie to you. I actually think that the toughest time Usyk was ever going to have with Joshua was the first time, because he's going in there with a really big guy. And let's be honest, Usyk as a heavyweight, the first couple of fights, he had to grow into that weight. He's grown into it.
I'll say this much. I saw the Chaz Witherspoon fight, saw the Chisora fight. I wasn't impressed. And it even looked in the Chisora fight like this guy's losing a step. Like if he gets hit flush, he's going to go out. So I had doubts going into the Joshua fight. I went with Joshua to win the fight knowing that we can't necessarily count Usyk out. This is a big fight. And what tends to happen in big fights, guys step it up. He stepped it up. He started the fight with a lead left hand, is his backhand, and I'm like, this is trouble. That was the first punch that he landed in the first round, was the lead left hand, and I'm like, that's not good.
Yeah.
The first punch that he landed was his backhand? That's not good, bro. This is bad news. And we see what happened. The only thing I'm thinking is, could the war in the Ukraine, could that affect him psychologically to where he can't perform at the same level that he did the first time out?
I get the look, it's not a great thing. It's certainly not ideal or perfect, but when you're a fighter from one of those countries and you decide to get into the professional game of boxing, you understand nothing's going to be easy for you. You're not going to have much of a home field advantage. You're going to be forced to travel. You're going to face a lot of fighters on their turf, or at least fight on foreign soil. Here's a factor. I'm being told that fight might be in the Middle East, maybe Saudi Arabia. Well, look, if Anthony Joshua couldn't beat him in England, where the support is unanimous for him, Saudi Arabia or the Middle East, that's a completely neutral setting. I actually think that works in the favor of Usyk.
I think it does too. I think, honest to God, if they were going to rob him, they would have robbed him in the first fight, and that would have been the end of it. And people would have been angry about it, but we would have been hearing about Anthony Joshua's next fight. So the only reason you take it to Saudi, obviously, is for the financial gain. That's it. Because it doesn't do anything for Anthony Joshua in terms of the odds. And most people are already counting him out. What do you make of Anthony Joshua snapping on those college kids? Is the pressure of the Usyk, because normally he's a nice guy and he takes it on the chin. People say stuff about him, he takes it on the chin, nothing major. This time he actually lashed out. What do you make of that?
No, we're all human. Anthony Joshua's a real gentleman. Look, he rehabilitated himself as an individual. I've actually never had the chance to interview Anthony Joshua. I tried a couple times at ESPN, but they had kind of shut things down for a while. Look, we're all human. We all have bad days. And I will never really badmouth Anthony Joshua, except for one thing. I thought he turned into a twice-a-year fighter way too soon. It actually stunted his growth as a fighter. But when he became such a gargantuan draw, and Eddie Hearn explained this to me, to do the type of events that we wanted to do with him, where we're not doing arenas, we're literally doing stadiums, it simply wasn't feasible for him to be that 3-4 defense type of year guy that many guys are early on in their runs. But that came at a price. I have a theory, Julius. If you are a fighter that does not have at least 25 fights, and especially if you're still in your mid-20s, and I know he's a little bit older, But I don't believe, and I've talked to trainers about this, you are a fully seasoned fighter until you have about 25, 30 fights under your belt. I actually think it matters. Unless you're one of those guys that turns pro at 28, 29, like Lomachenko, Golovkin. That's a little bit different of a variable. And that's what concerns me about Shakur Stevenson, who I believe he may not get beat for the next 10 years. Okay, I'm going to say it right now. No one may touch him.
Not just because of him. Not just because of him, though. The state of those weight classes.
Yes.
I don't see anybody at 130 that does anything with this kid, and I don't really see anybody at 135 short of Lomachenko who's not getting any younger. He's the only guy.
Yeah, and I would hope that Shakur, who only has 17 or 18 fights, makes some sacrifices. And I know it's easy for me to say, it's not my money, but if he ever wants to be a true star that could leverage economic deals for himself and force other guys into the ring by his sheer star potential and financial backing, like a Canelo, I don't know if at age 23, 24, just fighting twice a year from here on out, I don't know if you can market that.
No, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And the scary part is that he could potentially end up in a Terrence Crawford situation. The saving grace is that Top Rank controls most of what happens between 130, 135, and 140. These are all divisions where Shakur may move up, so he'll never have a scarcity of opponents. You know what I mean? So that's the saving grace for him, that even if he does end up being a 2-fight-a-year fighter, at least one of those fights will be a major fight that people are talking about, like the Oscar Valdez fight.
And you know what's a shame? In my view, a fight that I talked about 2 years ago that I wrote about while I was still at the Four Letter Network, a fight that would do absolute monster business and you could build it into a real rivalry would be Tank against Shakur.
Of course.
But if Shakur makes the decision to just stay with Mayweather Promotions or PBC, I have a question for all those people who ripped Terrence Crawford for re-signing with Top Rank and being on the wrong side of the street. Will they hold Tank Davis to that same standard?
Steve, you're singing to the choir because the entire middleweight and super middleweight division are on the wrong side of the street, but they don't tell them to go to the zone. They don't tell them. If Canelo's at the zone, he's the money fight, then that's where y'all need to be, because that's the logic you're employing when it came to Terrence. When it came to Terrence, well, the money fights are at PBC. Okay, then you need to go to PBC. Okay, then if we apply that formula to the guys at 60 and the guys at 68, all right, then you're on the wrong side of the street, buddy. Golovkin and Canelo over there. But you don't hear the outcry that, oh, y'all need to. Of course not, because this whole thing has turned into like a Heaven's Gate kind of cult on Twitter. It's like a heaven. Who remember Heaven's Gate? It's like Heaven's Gate. It's like Heaven's Gate with these guys. It's a cult. Like what is? It's just the boxing outfit, bro. That's all.
I think Leonard Edelby is just one. Listen, Leonard Edelby is like one hairpiece away from being Jim Jones.
Oh, God, everyone's going to Guyana. Don't drink that grape Kool-Aid. I mean,
they're drinking the Kool-Aid, Steve. They're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Well, they're drinking the Kool-Aid to where they're trying to convince themselves and each other and me and you that Rolly Romero versus Gervonta Davis is any kind of a super fight. You literally have Top Rank, who not that long ago gave you two unbeaten, 2 division champions in a unification match, didn't cost $80. But Rolly Romero versus Gervonta Davis, $80 price point. And you're not going to say nothing?
Well, Julius, think about this. Canelo's getting more heat for fighting Golovkin a third time than Tank Davis is for fighting Rolly Romero. You want to talk about the double standard, no standard that I've talked about for years. These individuals do not even understand, because it takes a level of intelligence to really comprehend your own hypocrisy.
Yes.
That's why I've had a great time just reveling in the fact Canelo Golovkin 3 is happening. I love the fight. I've said this for a while. I still think Golovkin is gonna give Canelo hell because he knows how to hit him. He's another guy that is not afraid of Canelo. And I actually think in the rematch, his last 2-3 rounds, he figured out something. He can't just jab, right hand against Canelo. Canelo's too slick in the upper body. But as he layered his combinations and he started using the uppercut more in the middle of his sequences, I actually thought he touched him more in the last 3 rounds of the rematch than he did in the previous 22 rounds. And it's still a real fight. And I just love the fact that so many people are heated that it's happening and that other people love it. It's great.
Look,
Those people said that Golovkin beat Canelo twice.
Listen, this is the main thing, right? These same guys, when it was announced that Manny Pacquiao, 42 years old, 2 years removed from the sport, stripped of his title due to inactivity. This is how long this man was gone, right? And when it was announced that he was going to be fighting Errol Spence, it was these same guys that are celebrating a 42-year-old Manny Pacquiao fighting Errol Spence, but a 40-year-old Golovkin fighting Canelo bothers you. Hey, at least Gennady fought in the last 12 months. At least he is a unified champion in his division. If you were okay with that, how could you not be okay with this?
Julius, I think you pointed out, along with some other people, if Jamal Charlo suddenly got the Golovkin fight, Golovkin wouldn't be old.
Yeah.
He'd be Ponce de Leon.
Yeah.
He'd be like Willow. He'd suddenly turn 30.
But Steve, quick question for you. About your prediction about the Rolly Romero fight. Okay, so how does Rolly lose? Does he lose by knockout by Tank? Does he lose by disqualification, or does he knock himself out? What do you think?
Well, here's the thing. His punches are so inaccurate, I don't even think he can hit himself. My view is, and I said this on 3 Knockdown Rule, and Mario was trying to be charitable. His technique is awful. His footwork is like he's got 2 left feet. He's got no coordination. I actually think that if this fight goes more than 5 rounds, Tank Davis should be declared the loser. I think the talent disparity is that much. And by the way, I actually think Tank is really good. I do. Technically, look, I said this, and you can look up my tweets. When Tank had to fight Rolly in December, and then Rolly had those legal issues, and they pulled him out of the fight, I tweeted, Isaac Cruz is a much better fighter.
Yeah.
He is. And Isaac, I remember he burst onto the scene on the Leo Santa Cruz Tank undercard. He blew out Diego Magdaleno in 1 round.
Oh, I remember that. That was brutal.
Right.
That was brutal.
Then he had a couple fights where he went the distance. It didn't look great. But one thing about Rolly, about Isaac, he's a tough little guy who's very short, and he's stocky, and he's physically tough. Tank, in my opinion, had a problem for the first time in his career actually punching down on somebody. His accuracy was not very good.
Look at Tank's response when they asked him if he wanted a rematch. It was hell no.
Right.
He found himself in a situation where he hasn't found himself in before, where he's the bigger guy or the longer guy, because Isaac is shorter than Tank. His arms are shorter than Tank's. Tank's not used to that. Tank's used to a leaner guy or a taller guy or a rangier guy like a Leo Santa Cruz, like a Mario Barrios, like a Jose Pedraza. He's accustomed to that, but he's not accustomed to punching down. So I see what you mean, but at the same time, they live in a biosphere, Steve.
Yeah,
we don't know how good any of them are until they get out there and show us. And that's why I don't trust what I see in Isaac, not completely. Yeah. I don't trust what I see in Tank. And Rolly ain't giving me nothing to trust other than he's going to try to wrestle with Tank instead of box him. They live in it's their own little ecosystem they have over there to where we don't know how good they are.
It's what we'd call in high school intramurals. It's not even varsity. It's intramurals.
It's a circle jerk. It's literally a campfire circle jerk. They're just fighting each other. I don't know that any of these guys beats Richard Comey. I don't know that.
Ooh. You know a guy that I like at lightweight, and again, the politics are going to keep this fight from ever being a serious possibility. I'd like to see William Zepeda and his activity take on Tank.
There you go.
They're both 35. They're both southpaw. They don't have to look hard to find each other. Zepeda got in some quality rounds against Alvarado, and we don't know if Tank can take a lot of pressure. That's the one thing Zepeda brings is a quick tempo and a lot of punches coming from different directions.
And it won't happen. See, they're relying on the politics to maintain the image, and that's what I've maintained about the PBC throughout. They promote by way of name association, arguments with Ryan Garcia by way of social media, blurbs about Vasyl Lomachenko, blurbs about Shakur Stevenson for fights that we all know, if you're paying attention, they're not going to happen. That's how they promote these guys. When in reality, these guys, they're literally in a biosphere. They're just going to fight these guys in different orders. They're going to mix up the names, shake it up, and fight each other. So we don't know how good they are. Whereas, at least at Top Rank, you know, Linares was a Golden Boy Promotions guy. He was the WBA champion, Ring Magazine champion, but he wasn't a Top Rank guy when he fought Vasyl Lomachenko. He was a Golden Boy Promotions guy. So that was a cross-promotional fight where we got to see, okay, out of these two guys, you know, Linares was established at 135. Vasyl Lomachenko was just moving up there. And we got to see, yo, Linares ain't half bad. He knocked Vasyl Lomachenko down. That right hand of his, he's going to land it, you know? And he dropped him. That's not going to happen with Tank. It's not going to happen with Rolly, and it's not even going to happen with Isaac. I think that Golden Boy Promotions, they like Ryan Garcia's chances in that fight, and they are earnestly trying to make it. But it won't happen.
That's why I was actually told by a source, and again, don't quote me on it, but it does look like Ryan Garcia, July 16th, is going to be fighting Javier Fortuna, which is a big kind of, you know. I never thought for 1 second, even as the WBC ordered the Pitbull fight, that it was ever going to happen because I think the Bloods and the Crips got along better in the 80s than Golden Boy and PBC. they do not see eye to eye. I'm sorry, they really don't. And it was so funny, the BC even just, all right, you know what? Let's just call off the purse bid. This shit ain't gonna happen.
That was the amazing. That's the part that got my attention. That the WBC themselves called it off. Like, just hold their feet to the fire. Wait till at least one of them walks away, so that's the one we can blame. But don't call it off, because then you're letting them off the hook.
And that's what Oscar De La Hoya wanted. He told me that 2 weeks ago. Saying, hey, let's go to a purse bid. Let's everyone show their hand. People have to understand, and this is what frustrates me about the sanctioning bodies. I don't believe there should be just one belt, because the fighters today are not active enough. If you have one belt, you're going to have a lot of fighters just quit boxing because they're not going to have any opportunities. And when people say, well, don't you think we should only have one champion? And I say, yeah, when you go back to guys fighting every other month, it'd be much more reasonable. But this is the point that I want to make. If you go back to when Gary Russell fought Vasyl Lomachenko, when he won his first world title in his, third fight, the reason why that fight was made was because the sanctioning body said, no, we're going to pair off Gary Russell and Lomachenko, because Salido blew off the weight. He is stripped. Lomachenko and Top Rank said, okay, even if we have to fight on Showtime, which is PBC's network, we're going to go over there, and right in front of me, it was 9-3, clear as day. And I love all these Lomachenko critics. They talk all this shit about him losing a second pro fight. They never say Gary Russell lost to a guy that was 1-1.
I say it all the time, Steve. I say it all the time. For all this bullshit, y'all trying to shit on Lomachenko. Right. Gary lost to a dude with one fight, one win, and one loss.
Right.
Top Rank also did that. They also applied similar logic when it came to Vosdick and Stevenson. Like, all right, we'll send you up. You can have the fight, because we know he's going to win.
Mo Hooker against Jose Ramirez. I was at that fight. It was somewhere near Dallas, in that area. And the money was so great back then when the Zone had like this unbelievable war chest, right? They had that unlimited budget that they surpassed.
Yeah.
But I remember Bob Arum telling me and other reporters, the money was so good. We said, Jose, go win the fight and come back. And that's exactly what he did.
Listen, I remember the boxing scene article, right? And the quotes were from Jose himself. He said that he stood to make, because it was ahead of the fight, and he said he stood to make more from that one fight than any winner in the World Boxing Super Series, which was going on at that time. And I remember the number that was being floated out there was a little north of $4 million
that's
for
right.
Maurice Hooker.
Yes, and you know, that fight was interesting because it was at this smaller venue. It's like a local college. It only had about 4,000 people. And this is the interesting part. Even though Mo Hooker's from Dallas, there were more Mexicans rooting for Ramirez in that venue. And it just goes to show you, as all my Mexican friends always tell me, Steve, we're everywhere. We're everywhere.
Look, I say it all the
Where
time.
you least expect it, we're there.
Look, I say it all the time. It's a matter of fact in today's boxing environment that the driving force for revenue in the sport right now in America is the Mexican fight fan. That's just reality. That's the way it is. That's where we're at. Maybe it was different in the past, but that's where we are right now. So when Canelo loses a fight to Bivol, and I said this immediately after the fight, oh, you think he's not still the face of boxing? Wait till the next fight, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
You know what was it? Hey, Joey, you know what was interesting was prior, and I really like Errol. I actually have gotten along with Errol very. He's one of the most amiable individuals you will ever meet. He has been well raised. He's a nice guy. But it was so funny that it's really the Errol sexuals that are just maddening to me. Okay, yeah. But literally this group of fans was saying that when Errol Spence fought Ugas, there was going to be more people than there was for Billy Joe Saunders Canelo, and I said, guys, they could do a double header, and it would not equal what they did for Saunders Canelo. And you know how impressive that number was, Julius? If you go back to what was going on in our world, the UK fans could not travel with the travel ban. There would have been another 5,000 to 7,000 without any of that.
Listen, they hate. There's a lot of guys, and I don't know. You know, well, I do know, but I try not to be one of those channels that profiteers off of the vitriol. But I remember all of that. I remember they said that Errol had surpassed Canelo Alvarez in terms of marquee value, and I'm like, listen, bro, he could fight Ugas and Crawford in the same night, and it won't do what Canelo and Golovkin about to do.
Yeah, and guys, let me just tell you about the Crawford Spence fight. I'm still optimistic, and I brought this question up 2 years ago. If that fight at $80 does not do at least 500,000 buys, you are now working in a financial deficit, because I believe both fighters are going to want at least 10 to 12 million. If you do the math at 500,000 buys at $80, and you take away half of that for the cable and satellite because they get their cut.
Exactly.
You have to think, oh, you're going to get a site fee. There's going to be some sponsorship, and there'll be some international. But unless both camps are realistic that, hey, we're not doing 1 million buys here, there's actually a chance both sides could over-negotiate this. But think about this and put this into perspective. Canelo Alvarez probably did about, 600 to 650,000 pay-per-views, and that's thought of as a failure. Meanwhile, with Spence against Ugas, we've heard the numbers on that, and people want to talk about that like it's a grand slam.
I'm telling you, it's insanity. Look, for a perspective, all right? The only way I could see Spence and Crawford happening now is if both guys are reasonable, like you said. Because if you're expecting $10 million up front, no, it's not there. What you have to do is take a small guarantee and let the rest come from the upside. Because then those huge guarantees are the problem. Those are the problem.
It used to be that way.
And it was more profitable before, though. It was more profitable.
Right. It was also more realistic. But what happened was, and the zone actually caused a lot of this, to be fair. In 2018, as they came on board and they were looking for talent, right? Every company from PBC to Top Rank to Golden Boy, they had to start locking down their main guys to make sure that they kept them, and they also protected their platforms. I remember talking to someone. This was one of the funniest things about how misinformation and fake news spreads on the internet. For years, I kept hearing Crawford's not making any money under the last Top-Rank contract he signed in 2018. I knew for a fact he was making at least $3.5 million. That was his contracted minimum. But all the aerosexuals would talk about, he's only making $1 million. Yeah, poor guy, only $1 million. And I'm thinking to myself, you morons have no clue, but you're too dumb to even realize what you're saying is wrong. When Crawford and his team leaked that story to Mike Coppinger on the eve of their fight against Kavaliauskas about how mistreated they were by Bob Arum, they tried to do that smear campaign. Well, they basically outed themselves because it was found out that Crawford was making 3.5, 4, 4.5, $5 million this whole time.
Listen, Steve, I've been saying that for about 4 years. When he entered into the renewed deal, they said it then. He's got to get a contract minimum of over $3 million per fight. And then you look at the numbers that were being floated out there. For the Amir Khan fight, they said he got something like 4 or 5.
Yeah,
For the Sean Porter fight, he got
Six.
$6 million up front. Errol Spence didn't get $6 million up front for Sean Porter. Not up front.
I asked someone at Top Rank when this was going on. This was about over a year ago. And I asked someone at Top Rank. I said, guys, what were you thinking with the Crawford contract? And he said, Steve, here's the thing. When we re-signed Terrence Crawford to that current deal that just ended, we were beginning our relationship with ESPN. So we had to lock down certain guys. And the two main priorities we had at our company back then was Vasyl Lomachenko and Crawford. They were going to be the pillars of our franchise. Now, and the guy pointed out to me, goes, Steve, that was before we signed Tyson Fury. That was before we got Inoue. And that was before we had these prospects like Teofimo Lopez, for instance. The business has changed. So by the time the contract ran out for the Crawford contract after the Porter fight, a lot of the top-ranked people actually breathed a sigh of relief because they said, okay, now we can stop losing money.
Well,
we can actually take that money and make 15 other fights.
But let's say this also. I feel that Top Rank by the aerosexuals and the usual suspects was unjustly vilified in that situation because they knew that Crawford is being frozen out. You know, that's what's happening. And they're blaming Bob for fights that the PBC refuses to make. You know, what the hell was Danny Garcia doing that he was too busy to fight Terrence Crawford? Because they made Danny an offer in 2018.
He turned it down to fight Adrian Granados, and they didn't say anything.
Well, look, they offered him a Pacquiao fight about 5-6 years ago.
I remember.
About $4.5 million. They didn't want it. I still get this on the Twitter feed, and I'm just too lazy to even point this out. But when people say Bob Arum kept that fight from happening, the default answer should only be, yeah, like he kept Wilder Fury from happening twice.
Exactly.
What's their rebuttal? What is their rebuttal?
Well, you know what? The rebuttal's not going to be anything sensical or sensible. I've maintained throughout that, you know, most people don't remember. They run with the narrative that Top Rank isolated themselves from the PBC, when in reality, the Top Rank offered both Adrian Broner and Danny Garcia a Pacquiao fight approximately 7 years ago. Danny said he wouldn't fight Manny unless he gets what Manny gets. Can you fucking imagine?
Well, Keith Thurman only wanted $10 million. To fight Crawford.
I mean, we were just talking about. Listen, we were just talking about Tank Davis, right? We were just talking about Tank Davis, and he practically fights in a bubble. Like every fucking fight is a 2020 NBA season. So every fucking championship he wins is fucking fake. And he doesn't fight any competition.
They offered the man over $7 million. I think where Eddie stopped was 8. I remember the number that he said that they wanted $10 million for a Tevin Farmer fight.
Wow. Ugh. And he's never been paid what they were offering.
Now, bear in mind, this is before Tank actually debuted on pay-per-view, and I believe, this is my belief, purely belief, that this is why he ended up on pay-per-view ahead of schedule. DAZN offering Gervonta Davis, you know, $8 million for a Tevin Farmer fight. Gervonta Davis himself said he was convinced to turn it down. Okay, so if he turns it down, what are you going to give him of equal value? Oh, we're going to put you on pay-per-view with Leo Santa Cruz.
Well, what about the Deontay Wilder DAZN deal?
Oh, my God.
I mean, let's go back to that. I mean, this is – look, everyone does it to a certain degree. They have to protect their partners. It's sometimes when people say the fighters duck, these guys are puppets. They're like Pinocchio, okay? Yeah. But they don't have a say in it. Like, look, I thought Jaime Munguia should have fought Jermall Charlo.
I agree.
It's not him that pulled himself out of the fight. Oscar had to protect his deal and his relationship with the zone. Guys, before I leave, I want to point out one thing. Look for this to happen. And cue Alanis Morissette, because this is going to be very ironic.
Okay.
All right. This is going to happen next week, and I'll probably hop on with you guys again. The very same guys who for the past week or so were casting aspersions on Eddie Hearn and the pay-per-view numbers for Canelo Bivol being inflated will be the very same guys giving out fake numbers for Tank versus Rolly by
course.
Wednesday.
Of course.
Yep.
Of course, like that. That's it. Look, that's a given. These guys are over the moon that Gervonta Davis did 200 supposedly, because I don't believe that.
No. But you know what? Here's the thing. You don't even set an over-under on what you think the pay-per-view is going to do. I'm going to set an over-under on 275,000 for what the PBC pom-pom waivers are going to claim it did from quote-unquote sauces. Not
sauce. That's what I was gonna say. That's the number. That's the number.
Yes.
275,000 reported pay-per-view buys, and I'm glad it's on camera.
Aki TV got the white sauce that they live off of.
Steve.
Yeah.
Before you go, right quick. I know you said going back to what we said about Earl being a nice guy. He may very well be, but I'm sorry to tell you this. Terrence is knocking him out when they fight.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. Look, I put my feelings aside. I mean, look, one thing here's the thing I've always said. I give opinions, but there are certain people in boxing, like the matchmakers, that have all the knowledge. I lean on them a lot. And I've talked to a lot of trainers, and I've talked to a lot of matchmakers off the record where they can go off the cuff and just give me the truth instead of this bullshit answer that they want to do Captain Cliche. I would say 90% of the people that I have canvassed that I respect in this business, they like Crawford big in that fight.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I mean, look, Crawford versus Spence. I'll say this. I'm so confident in that I'm almost not excited that Crawford will beat him. I'm more excited about Sunday morning than I am.
I mean, Julius, you might be doing a Jerry Lewis telethon.
That night, yes.
Oh my God.
That night, I might not sleep for 24 hours.
Let me ask Steve this question: do you think like Errol Spence's chin is like his punch resistance has deteriorated over the years?
I don't think it's been fortified with his lifestyle. And look, Ugas buzzed him. I don't care what anyone says. That sixth round to me, I kind of looked at that going, "What are you doing?" I thought that was a very peculiar sequence. Errol Spence, I remember he got buzzed a little bit by Sean Porter, who I always thought was more physically strong, more than a strong puncher. But look, here's the other factor though. Terrence Crawford now is much closer to 35 than he is 30. There's also the father time element with him. But I know one thing about Terrence Crawford, and having talked to a lot of people that have been around him, have conducted workouts, he has freakish strength. Yeah. And he has a natural type of strength. He has a kind of a wrestling background. His son's into it. His pound-for-pound strength from his core or his overall body, I will say this. He has grown into being a welterweight. I think he's every bit the puncher who's faster than Errol Spence. And one thing that Errol Spence is going to have to deal with, when most southpaws go into a fight, they have that advantage of being the left-hander.
Yep.
Well, the greatest switch hitter I've ever seen outside of Mickey Mantle and Eddie Murray is Terrence Crawford. He takes that right away.
Yep.
Thank you.
I mean, you said about him being like physically, the man deadlifts like over 400 pounds.
Let me say this, because one of the main things about that fight that really just puts the nail in the coffin for Spence, for me, is the lifestyles. When Terrence Crawford is not fighting, where do you see him? He's in the gym. If he's not helping Shakur, he's helping Keyshawn, or he's helping Jamel. He's always in the gym, regardless of whatever. He's always taking care of himself. Whereas when I see Errol, he's at the party. He's got his shirt off. Might be drunk. He's riding. It's like, come on. It's kind of obvious to where, yes, I want to see the fight, but not because of the fight, because of Sunday morning.
Yeah, I mean, the difference in nutrition, I think, is could be night and day. Well, now that I saw in the All Access leading up to Ugas and Spence is that he hired a nutritionist for the first time in his career. I'm like, wow, because his blood had been pumping in rosé while Terrence Crawford's on that snack system.
The perfect thing about it is he just had a quote unquote, right? Let's all say he beat Ugas in dominant fashion. And he stopped him, where he hasn't gotten a knockout in a long time. So if and when he does fight Crawford, no car accident, no eye, no excuses.
Yeah.
When he loses, that's it.
They're gonna make him though when he loses. Watch. Like
I don't see how they could. All right,
they still will. They still will. Like even after Wilder got his ass whooped by Fury for in the dirt fight, what would they like?
I'm telling you,
you know,
Terrence Crawford's gonna.
Right now,
Yeah.
America is the Mexican fight fan.
All right. Well, look, guys, I gotta get going, man.
All right, I'll see you, Steve.
All right, see you guys later, man. You guys have a good night.
Take care.
You too, Steve. Always welcome. Let me read a couple of the super chats. They've been sitting there waiting. Mr. D. Loke, let me read the super chat. Mr. D. Loke says, Rolly told them we got the same belt, and they do. M.A. Bustamante says, ESPN Sports Channel and USA were testing grounds before going to the big show at HBO and Showtime. Now, all these guys think they're the big show. Yes, and I feel that delineates the line of the good guys from the great guys. I still view top-ranked stable of guys, even down to the prospect level, as these are the great guys. You want to see a great prospect? Watch a top-ranked show. You got Keyshawn Davis, and Jared Anderson. You got Bruce Carrington. You got that Torres kid that looks like one of the Jonas brothers. They have, by far, the best prospects. It's not even close.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly.
By the way, Jules, let me ask you this: how soon do you see Jared Anderson challenger for a title?
Another 2 years, maybe 3. Not because of his readiness, but because of the state of the division and the politics. That you have Joe Joyce in position to fight for the WBO. Mm-hmm. You have Felipe Hergovic in position to fight for the IBF. You have Daniel Dubois in position by way of the WBA if he makes his way past Trevor Bryan. And the WBC, it's sorted. Wilder, after 2 back-to-back losses, is still number 1.
Hey, Jules, what about that one big Russian dude we were talking about? The one that was like really impressive.
Oh, not the Russian, the Uzbek. That guy's a problem, and that's a guy that he's like. It looks like he's with Pro Bellum. It looks like he is, right? He's a Richard Schaefer guy right now, right?
His next fight,
Jaloff Rice, and his next fight is on Showtime. He's a ways out from fighting an eliminator, but he's gonna need to be in bed with the right people to fight for a title. He is like, you might have to be in bed with Top Rank to fight for a title. You might.
Man, when that dude comes into his own, boy,
he's gonna beat the shit out. He's gonna beat the shit out of a lot of guys. And what you got to notice is 2 of Frank's boys are close to becoming mandatories: Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce. So Frank, Bob, Top Rank. That might be the way where you need to be and where you need to go to get in position in the next, I'll say, 2 years, based on the lay of the land right now. But that guy's gonna beat the shit out of a lot of people. As far as Wilder's return, I wanted to talk to you guys about that before we close it out. I'm gonna start with Julio. Julio, just Wilder coming back. Are you happy about it? And what are you expecting?
I generally don't dislike Wilder as much as some people. I think he guarantees a knockout. I think he'll knock out a couple cans, and then I don't know where he'll go from there though. He's almost 40, so yeah. What options does he have?
Fair point. He's not getting any younger. JBN, Wilder, he said he's not retiring. He's coming back. What's the end game?
Me vale verga lo que se like Julio just said he's gonna come back, fight a couple cans. Maybe the toughest fight he'll have is Ruiz. Yeah, se va el way.
Yeah, I mean,
he's not really gonna do much for the division. I don't think he is, unless he does somehow maybe have that Joshua fight. Joshua loses.
I'm not even hoping.
Maybe.
Because what if Joshua loses to Usyk, bro? What if Joshua loses to Usyk?
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, what if Joshua loses and then he's coming off a loss? Like, what if they just say, like, fuck it, let's just fight? That's the only good thing that I could see coming out. Other than that, no, nada más, bro.
All right, Mike, Wilder, he said he's not retiring. He says he's coming back. Are you happy about it? And what can we expect in the next, let's say, 3 fights? I agree. I mean,
100%.
It's a valid point.
Profound point. Yeah.
I wish
I should have said that. Damn.
that's what I was gonna say. I wish I said that. Let's go to our man Leo. Leo, Wilder's coming back. He's not retiring. What do you see in the next 3 fights for Deontay Wilder?
I see Elenius. I see Andy Ruiz. Maybe a Luis Ortiz trilogy. Who knew?
Oh no!
They wouldn't dare, bro. They wouldn't dare. Come on now.
Come on, Julius.
They wouldn't.
You know what's happening in the BBC.
Not 3 of them shits though, man. You can't do
Leo,
3 of them.
Don't jinx us, man.
All right.
Luis Ortiz just knocked out the former heavyweight champion Andy Ruiz. He's back from the dead.
You know what? That's because I struggle with the idea. I mean, we'll see. Because Andy's fighting Ortiz, and we know that. Like, we know that they pulled him out of the Tyrone Spong fight for that fight. So that's pretty much done.
Do you feel like he used that as leverage? Maybe he wasn't getting the money he wanted, and he was like, "All right, I'm out of here." And now you give me the money, all right, I'll fight.
I do, because that's the only way I can explain it. They said that he already signed the contract to fight Luis Ortiz, that it was already done. So I'm like, well, if the contract was already signed, why the fuck is he going to Tyrone Spong? Leverage tactics. I have options. Give me more money. It's the only way to explain it. Jay, Wilder's back. He's going to fight. Are you happy about it? And what do you expect to see in the next 3 fights?
Okay. Well, I'm not particularly happy about it. I mean, like, it's just like Julio was saying earlier. I got nothing against Wilder. Just good guy all around. But it's just that he's done a lot of damage to the division. He kind of has. And what do I see in the next 3 fights? Is like Leo said, Helenius. He probably gets the winner of Ortiz, Ruiz. And I just hope he doesn't challenge for a title again, because if he does and he wins, well, we all know what's going to come next after that.
That's
right?
True. That's true. That's true.
So I don't know. Yeah. That's just my 2 cents on it. Yeah, that's all.
All right, country. Wilder's back and he's not retiring. Are you happy about it? And what do you envision for the next 2 to 3 fights?
I got mixed feelings on it. I mean, and on the one hand, it's kind of cool to see him back. On the other hand, I'll put it to you this way: he does have a purpose for coming. Well, if he comes back, he has a purpose. He'll get used for some fights. As long as they don't throw that WBC title around his waist, I'm cool with it. Because if they did, we're gonna go back to square one, and that's not what I want to see or hear. But if he doesn't, then I can see him. Well, definitely, I think he's going to fight Ruiz. I'm not sure about either possibly Helenius or Kalnacki. Maybe he'll fight one of the other guys, that's a little more challenging, depending upon what he thinks he can do and how he tries to improve. So I still think it does add a little more spice to the division a little bit, but I agree that in the past, because of him and his team, they did do damage. So, yeah, it could be good. It could be bad. I think we're all going to need to take a wait-and-see approach.
Okay, last, Virtuoso. Wilder's back. He's talking shit. They're building statues, and he's getting erections.
When he got that statue made, I'm like, I was probably thinking, you know what? He probably got that loss that ass whooping he got still in the back of his mind, and that probably influenced his decision to come back. Like, he don't want to go out like that. Like, having the statue like that, after a loss, I mean, come on, man, it cheapens it. I think he'll try to fight Ruiz, hopefully, because that's probably the fight that makes him a lot of money on that side. If it's gonna be for a title, man, like, the WBC has to make him earn it. Like, I'm a country on this.
They're not so Virtuoso.
I know. They have him at 1, and every time I keep hitting refresh, it's still there. I mean,
bro, he's not. Look. He off of 2 back-to-back ass whoopings, he is the number 1 contender.
Yeah, that's whack.
No,
man.
no,
They're gonna have to
Dillian just got his ass whooped, right? Think about it. Dillian gets his ass whooped. He drops down from above number
He's
1.
not in the top 10 at all. He's gone.
No, he's there, but he's at number 7. Wilder is number 1, having gotten his ass kicked 2 times before Dillian.
Didn't the IBF drop Joshua to 5?
All right, it's Wilder at number 1, and it's between Joseph Parker and Joe Joyce, number 2 and 3. Then under them is Andy Ruiz and Frankie Sanchez.
I think they're gonna make the Ruiz fight. That's pretty much it. Cause like the next 2 that you just mentioned, they were frank. They're not gonna make that fight.
Well, you see what's going on with Joe. He might not fight. He might not fight Joe Joyce, bro.
Parker dashed.
Parker might dine and dash on smoking Joe Joyce, bro.
Peter Parker?
Seriously, bro.
Yeah, he's swung away.
He want to fight Dillian White in a rematch.
You know what it is, Julius, about Wilder? For me, it's not even Wilder. It's the WBC.
Yeah.
Every time I see our ranking of the WBC, I always see some fucked up shit.
That's true.
Every time.
It makes me puke.
Is it more fucked up? Wait, Leo. Is it more fucked up than Sergio Martinez, number 3 WBA? Is it more fucked up than that?
Damn, you had to bring it up.
It's unfair.
Yo, man,
how did he get that hat?
Because
I learned about that on Coach Williams' channel, and I was like, "What the heck, really?"
For those that don't believe me, look at the screen.
Who the fuck did he beat to get that ranking?
What the fuck is that?
Bro, he's number 3, bro. He's behind.
Wow.
Who did he beat? Who did he beat to get that
He
ranking?
came out of retirement with a walker and made it to number 3.
He must have beat
Julius,
leapfrogged the entire field.
Julius, Chris Eubank versus Sergio Martinez.
Bro, it's the fight you've been waiting for, bro.
I got Sergio.
Zarafa's number 5 too.
Somebody owed Sergio Martinez some money. That's what it was.
Yeah, Gilbert.
It's something. So in a nutshell,
Gilbert owes him money like he owed Frez at Kendo. Remember that? He was still ranked even though he was inactive for 3 years.
Frez had not fought, and I forgot how long, but he was still in court over that baby belt. It's the wildest shit. Gentlemen, I'm old, and y'all know what I'm about to do. Always a pleasure. I may or may not go live again tomorrow, but I will not be going live for Romero versus Davis.
Oh, you should, Jules.
Come on, Jules. You know you want to.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
We want you to, Jules.
It's gonna be tamed by knockout.
Gentlemen.